Parents. Some are great, some are not. And some try, and they try really hard. Today I want to honour those parents that try with Christian Hull's first annual Parent of the Year Awards. I suppose I should wear something formal. So I threw the question out on Facebook, would you like to nominate yourself or your parent? Parent of the Year is obviously used in a sarcastic sense in this instance. So let's go through some of the nominations. Some are private DMs because they didn't want to publicly say what they did. I nominate myself for Parent of the Year. We were living in London at the time and I'd been down to Sainsbury's, it's a supermarket. I packed the boot and put the baby in her seat. I also put my bag in the front seat and the car locked itself. I left the baby in her seat happily smiling at a security guard I'd brought over. I then got in a cab, went home, got my husband to give me the spare set of keys, and then I went back and unlocked the car. My baby was still very happy. That's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's not great. Or it's actually quite bad. My mum's done that to me and my brothers, and she just calls the NRMA and they get a coat hanger and they undo the lock. Oh, but her phone might have been in her bag. Well, couldn't the security guard have got... I mean, I just think leaving your child in an unattended vehicle, even though there was a security guard... I have a serious nomination, but it needs to remain anonymous. I nominate my nan. At some point of the day, she didn't know where my mum and her sister were. At the age of 5 and 3, they were cutting firewood, and one sister cut the other sister's finger off with an axe. The finger gone, never to be used again. Where the fuck was my nan? She was probably hiding in the pantry with wine. Please make sure this remains anonymous, as my mum is a bit sensitive about it, even though 60 years have passed. That's I'll just go in the backyard and play with your sister, would you? Oh, Mum! I nominate my granddad. When my mum was a baby, my grandpa laid her on the end of the bed. My granddad was in the bed asleep at the time. She turned around to get something and my granddad had kicked her full force off the bed because he thought it was the cat. He kicked his child off the bed. That is Parent of the Year quality right there. When I was an infant, my parents took me to a friend's farm for a get-together. I was in a cane carry basket that had big handles. My mum placed me on the ground next to my father, who was chatting to some people while she went to the toilet. When she returned, I was nowhere to be seen. It turns out that a car had reversed and the handle of my carry basket, oh my God, had hooked onto the exhaust pipe. I was dragged, this is so traumatic, quite a distance along a gravel road with deep drainage ditches either side and over 2 cattle grids. The car stopped thinking they had caught a stick underneath the car. Oh my God, I feel sick. When my parents got to me, I was lying on the side edge of the basket with gravel dust all over me. I was fine, but Mum needed a couple of Valium. I just need to take a minute to comprehend that the baby was almost run over. Oh my God. How did the people talking to the father not notice? How did the father not notice that there's a baby at his feet and a car came really close? So many questions. Oh, that's definitely a nomination for Parent of the Year there. When my younger sister and I were toddlers, I faintly remember her excitedly coming to grab us from inside the house. She took us outside because she wanted to show us a mummy bird feeding her babies on the ground. It was all lovely and so sweet, but then I remembered a cat came out of nowhere and pounced on one of the baby birds and jumped over the fence with it in its mouth. I remember my mum screaming and running after the cat. My sister and I were sitting there in shock, and then we burst into tears. To be fair, I don't think that's Mum's fault. I don't think this qualifies as a nomination because she was being like, I'm a good mum, come out and watch nature. And then nature took a turn and the cat ate the baby birds in front of the young children. I nominate my dad. When my brother was about 14, he and my dad were fixing something on the roof. Dad had been up the ladder, climbs down and asks my brother to go up and touch a piece of guttering. My brother goes up, touches the gutter and gets an electric shock. Dad says, "Oh, good, I was checking it wasn't just me." Oh my God! Some wiring in the roof had degraded and a current had been running through the gutters. My mum left me in a pram outside the bakery and went home and did housework, had lunch, and it wasn't until my dad asked where the baby was that mum realised she had left me at the bakery. She got there, I was still sound asleep in my pram out the front of the bakery, exactly where she had left me. How old was I at the time? 1 week old. We're all swimming at a waterfall in Cairns when some turtles came up. Hubby panicked and pushed our daughter towards the turtles, then swam off, saving himself. While trying to clean water out of my 10-year-old's ear, I got a bit aggressive and stabbed through her eardrum. Oh my God, this is my mother. This is how my mother handles emergencies. She causes grievous bodily harm accidentally. We had to go to the emergency room and definitely got the question, "Do you often accidentally hurt your daughter?" Oh my God. She's now 14 and she can hear perfectly fine. I'm almost tempted to give you the win for this one because my mother would be like, "Come over here, show me the splinter." And then she'd like try to get it out but push it in. And accidentally she'd push it in further. Or we'd have a wobbly tooth and she'd be like, "Show me." And then she'd rip it out. I'm like, "Mum, that wasn't the tooth that was wobbly." And we'd be crying and there'd be blood going everywhere. I'm pretty sure my brother broke his wrist and just didn't tell mum because he was so afraid that like she'd accidentally amputate his arm. So for a couple of days he just had like a severely broken wrist. We used to call her Dr. Karen. Mum could do so many things. She just couldn't be a nurse or a doctor to her own children. We were terrified. On my daughter's 8th birthday last year, she received a beautiful pink desk chair from her nan. It obviously needed to be assembled, so I proceeded to open it so I could build it. As I was ripping open the box, my 8-year-old daughter moved close to me. As my hand went back from the forceful rip, I punched her bang in the mouth and knocked out her tooth on her birthday. I'd like to nominate myself. Oh, this will be good. I have always called peanut butter penis butter. One day, I left my children at childcare. I love that she doesn't even say, "I only do it around adults." She's like, "No, in front of my children, it's penis butter and Vaginamite." One day, I left my children at childcare. Oh my God. When picking up my son, the childcare worker pulled me aside and asked me why at lunchtime my 2-year-old was refusing to eat with the other children and was yelling out, "I want penis on toast." I put cardboard rolls over my daughter's elbows when she first started eating. What? Then gave her a biscuit. I put cardboard rolls over my daughter's elbows? Is that so she couldn't bend her arms? I did it more than once, laughed a lot every time. And I'm not sorry. Sometimes being a sole parent can be so boring, which is why I did it. She's now 19. She doesn't seem to have any emotional scarring as far as I know. Oh my God, I want to try that so badly. Well, here we go. Jessica wants to nominate herself for Mum of the Year. My 10-month-old was teething, so I dipped his dummy in whiskey, like old school style. And it smelled like whiskey. I think I gave him too much. My dad tried to burn a thread off my stocking without thinking how flammable nylon is. And he ended up lighting my legs on fire and having to roll me around on the carpet to put it out. Thankfully, I was okay. I mean, it's not as bad as putting a kid in a basket and having a car drive away with it on the exhaust pipe. Well, these are the nominations for Parent of the Year. Who do you think should win? Vote in the comments below. We'll have to do this again next year because I'm sure there are a lot of wonderful, really wonderful parents and their stories about how good they are as parents.